Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another Jurassic World Dominion Ferocious Pack release. This is the second to last, as there is only a Velociraptor left after this one, but this, as you can see, is another Atrociraptor, and it's one that it looks like we've kind of had before. So far, we had one that was very similar to this in the Owen Escape set. This is Atrociraptor Panthera, and it is actually slightly different from the previous release. Originally, when I had first seen some images of this, I was actually fooled. I almost wasn't going to even grab it until I really started to pay attention to the differences, and there are definitely some differences, not huge ones, nothing major, but there are some differences between this and the original release. So we will, of course, go over that here in the review, but as far as the packaging goes, it's pretty much your standard, and then the back shows all the other figures that are in this wave of Ferocious Packs, all of which we've now reviewed, except for the Velociraptor, and then of course we're doing the Atrociraptor currently. So let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our Atrociraptor, now loose out of the packaging, and even though it is very similar to the original one, I will say I do like this one a little bit more, and it just fell over. Well, now I'm not so sure, but I do like this one a little bit more than the original release, because the coloration here on the legs is definitely nicer than the original one. And I feel like just that one little area of added color makes the entire figure look a little bit better than the original one did. But it's not too far off that, again, if you're not, someone like me that absolutely has to have every different paint variant of every figure that comes out on the Mattel line, then this one may not be a big deal. It may not be something that you're too worried about picking up. But to kind of show you guys the differences, let's jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So sculpt-wise, the figure is exactly the same sculpt as the previously released version of Atrociraptor Panthera. There's no difference on this one as far as the sculpt goes compared to the older release. And one thing that I'm unsure about is whether or not this would bring up any other sort of different Atrociraptor in the Jurassic Facts app, but we'll go ahead and show you the code anyway, and I keep forgetting to do this. In the last two, I think, Ferocious Pack reviews, I forgot to show that off, so definitely wanted to do that here in this one. But again, sculpt-wise, it's exactly the same. Paint-wise, it is extremely similar, and to show you that, here is the Owen Escape set. Let's close the mouth, first of all. But the Owen Escape set version. Now, looking at the two, one of the most notable differences would be the fact that we actually have coloration leading down here in the legs. The older one had that kind of yellowish brown all the way through the legs. The newer one, it tapers off here in the thigh before transitioning to that lighter tone here on the lower part of the leg. So that's definitely one difference. If we bring the leg back and we take a look here at the stomach region, you can see that the design is slightly different here in the stomach compared to what we see over here on this one. The design in the neck, for the most part to me, looks pretty much the same. If we move the arm out of the way and kind of try to line that up a little bit better, you can see it looks pretty much the same, but yeah, maybe even a little bit different. Slightly different, but not too far off. I'm actually looking at it now. There's definitely some differences. Like right here, you can see how the brown comes up and then changes direction, whereas you don't really see that. It just kind of runs up here. So it is slightly different as far as that goes. The brown in the face, that to me looks pretty much the same. I don't notice any difference there. The eye color looks the same. Let's see about the inside of the mouths, if the coloration on the inside of the mouth is the same. Yeah, absolutely looks to be the same in there as well, so no real differences there. You can see we do have the light arms on both figures, so that's not different. But here's another area that is definitely a little bit different, and you can see that the brown, that kind of darker brown back here, starts right back here behind the thigh and leads out into the tail. Whereas on the Owen Escape set version, the brown doesn't start until we are already out here past that swivel joint in the tail, and then it runs out. So you can definitely see that those are placed differently, and it is exactly the same over here. You can see again that they are completely different as far as the positioning goes. You can also see that on the newer one, the light brown runs further out onto the tail before transitioning. It transitions a little bit earlier here as far as that lighter tone on the Owen Escape set version, but I don't really see too much of a difference as far as the brown goes here in the stomach region on this side. Oh no, definitely. If you look at the lower part, it is a little bit different compared to what we see on this one. And in the neck region, very, very similar, but potentially slightly different. We do also have the light coloration here of the underside. That doesn't really look any different compared to the older one, though. So there are definitely some differences. Nothing super impressive, nothing major, just really small, subtle differences between the two, but just the inclusion of the lighter tone here running down the legs. I think I like this one a little bit more than I liked the previously released version. Of course, painted nails definitely could have helped this one quite a bit, but I do quite like this one regardless. Definitely pretty fun to again have another version of Atrociraptor Panthera. I would like to see a different sculpt, different positioning of the body, not just the same reused sculpt for this one, but maybe we'll get something like that in the future. Still, it's a pretty fun figure. So again, since the sculpt is the same, we don't need to measure it or anything like that. We've already done that in the Owen Escape set. If you want to see a more detailed look at the sculpt and everything else on the figure, definitely check out the Owen Escape set review. This one, I'm really only going to show you the articulation because that's something we can do pretty quickly. You can see we have jaw articulation. We also have a swivel in the neck. It can also go up and down. Arm articulation, but it can't come out away from the body. Same deal for the legs, and then a swivel tail, and that's really about it. So no need for comparisons or anything like that, especially since I would think at this point you probably already roughly have a good idea of what the size of these Atrociraptors are. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dominion Ferocious Pack version of Atrociraptor Panthera is pretty fun. It's not great because we've already had one figure that was so similar, but it is still pretty fun, and I think it's kind of a little bit of an upgrade compared to the previously released version, just because the coloration, I think, on this one looks a little bit nicer, again, with that color on the legs. It just gives it a little bit more color to the figure, making it a little bit more appealing. But what is fun about this one is it's another of those instances where you have color from the head all the way out onto the tail, so unlike a lot of Mattel figures where they kind of look like they're only half painted, this one does appear to be, kind of almost fully painted outside of the nails. We, of course, would need nail paint for it to look fully painted, but it definitely has some nicer paint apps than a lot of different Mattel figures do. So that is a huge plus for this one. Sculpt-wise, I think it's also pretty nice. Again, it resembles an Atrociraptor from Dominion in an okay fashion. It's not picture perfect, as most Mattel figures usually aren't perfect as far as screen accuracy goes, but I think it's like the basic gist of what the Atrociraptor looks like, so it looks good from that department, and also has some very nice, very fine detail to it, as per usual, and you have some pretty decent articulation like you usually do for the figures. I'm not a huge fan of the pose, but at the same time, I kind of like it just because it's so different from the previously released versions of the Atrociraptor, and it's always fun to have a mix-up as far as different poses and everything go. I would like to see this paint job on a different version of the Atrociraptors, like a standing one or something at some point, but this one is still pretty fun. So if you are interested in picking this up, make sure you head to your local Walmart or Target. I found this one at Walmart, so you should have no problem finding this sooner rather than later, hopefully. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.